Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
Oh, Matt, we did it again. We started having a great conversation and I didn't hit record, so I stopped you mid-sentence.
Halfway into that sentence, I'm thinking, here we go having a conversation, and we're just having the kind of conversations you and I normally have, which is fun, but
Yeah,
I know
so
the same thing.
So we're recording this on Valentine's Day, and the joke was, well, look at us two losers here on Valentine's Day without a Valentine, right? And I started by saying, well, my wife's my Valentine every day, not
Yep.
just one day of the year. And you went on to say you were having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, who was saying that they don't. You and I were talking about, we do things with our spouses often. It's part of our normal lives. I mean, I'm with my wife daily. I mean, with what we do and everything. I mean, we don't generally separate. We might for pieces at a time or whatever, but we're together more than probably most couples would be comfortable with. But we happen to like it. We're just talking about how we don't celebrate that the day like a lot of people we were talking about, but we don't do a lot of things maybe like a lot of people, and what we were getting into is I don't necessarily get caught up in these things, and it got me thinking, which will go into finance, Paul. It's like one of the things that I heard years ago, and it just rings true to me, is if you're doing what everyone else is doing, like it's probably not not that it necessarily is wrong, but you're not gonna get ahead. You're not gonna set the world on fire following the crowd. You kind of got to take your own path in a lot of ways. And to me, it's like go to work, go to school, get a good job, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, go to work till you're 67 now, or what is retirement age now for Social Security?
You can collect it at 62.
Yeah, what's like I'm looking it up right now, like the full Social Security age.
I think that's 67.
So did I, but I'm typing this in, Social Security age, and it's coming up 70, 72. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, gotcha. It's talking about maximum Social Security benefit at age 72. I'm not quite sure what that's even getting at this point, but
well, so yeah, that's 70. So 72, you said, right?
That I think 67 is the age. I think you're right about that. Let me. We're veering all over the place, but I think I like it.
Oh, we don't have Valentine's, so it doesn't matter.
Right, a couple of losers like us, lucky to have each other. So Social Security broken system, right? I mean, in a lot, there's not enough money for the number of people collecting, and in my readings, which I'm reading on whatever topic A or B or C, I run across this a lot. I think when Social Security started, and this is a topic that if you talk about with older people, retired people, oh, they'll get mad at you. My mom gets mad at me about this one.
So does mine.
Okay, so and I get her point, but at the same time, I'm looking at it from a macro position, not a micro position. But okay, when it started, I think the average person was living to 62. So that was the age, because clearly a lot of people were going to die before that, and some people were going to live after that. But the math worked, right? And I think for every one person collecting, and I again, we need to hire someone here to fact check us, but there was like 100 people working and contributing to it. It's something ungodly off, like 4 people are working to one person collecting, and I'm going to try to check that. But in addition to it, what are we living to now in this country? 78, 80? Something like that?
And I don't think for a lot of people, the last years are healthy either.
True.
So
Well,
there's
that's
a lot,
true.
lot going on. And again, I'm talking from a macro level, not a micro level, because
Right, 100%. And I start getting into that. So what I've said is, I said, hey, look, we gotta do. There's only a couple options here. Let the system keep going and break, and then fund it through other ways, which is probably what'll happen, in my opinion. Raise the age from 62 to 70 or whatever. Good luck with that, right? You'll have my mom and your mom, beating down the gates of Congress, or the White House, or whoever they choose to, or our houses, worst of all, wherever they choose to go on it. Or you've got to tax people more, or you've got to spend less, or I mean, it's like something has to give, though, right?
What is it? 8.8% up to set amount of dollars you pay into Social Security. Again, I wish we had a fact checker. At one point when I used to teach it, it was like up to your first $104,000 you paid Social Security. So if you made $250,000 a year, you're not paying Social Security on the entire 250. You're paying it on the first.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. I'm just taking a look at a Google search, and it says 6.2% is financed through payroll tax. Employers and employees each pay 6.2% of wages up to the taxable maximum of $160,200. Okay. While the self-employed may pay 12.4%. So,
good. So let me ask you. So, all right.
This is what I wanted to get to. And hold your question before I lose it. I want to hear it. But as of June of 2022, about 182 million people worked and paid Social Security taxes, and about 66 million people received monthly Social Security benefits. Most of these beneficiaries are retirees and their families, about 51 million people. So it looks to be less than 3 people are working for every one collecting. Yikes.
Yeah, but I thought you'd thought it'd be less than that.
No, I thought originally, I think it was designed, and I'd have to go back, but it was something like 100 people were working to everyone collecting. And I thought,
okay. And they're not like, it's got to be higher, because you're not collecting enough from those 3 people probably to pay for that one person.
No way. Can't be.
So how about this? All right, you grandfather, no pun intended, or grandmother people into it. Even at my age, I would gladly, I'm 50, so almost 51. So I'd have 11 years before I can collect. How about the next 11 years? They just let me take money and put it into an index fund, and I'll press my luck. I'll get more than 6%.
Paul, that's exactly what I think as well. And I'd love to talk to someone who could look at some of these other sides of it, but give me in my case, I guess it's 12.4%. Give me my 12.4. I'll take that, and I'll ride that all day long. And look, I could see people thinking, well, you guys, this is something you guys are interested in, and you guys do this stuff. So therefore, but what about me? Well, I think you privatize it. And you regulate it so that people aren't getting ripped off, which you're into. That industry is so regulated already, Paul, right? It's not like it's crypto.
Matt, I was talking to a client today because he had some questions about capital gains, because you get a 1099 DIV statement, div statement, and he's like, well, wait a minute, like, where'd all these dividends and capital gains come from? Because I was losing money. I'm like, well, yeah, the value of your fund went down, but you still made up, because it's an income and growth fund, so it has so many companies that pay dividends. So even though the value's going down, those companies all paid dividends, and we reinvested that. And that's why you've almost broke even though you started it last summer. Like he's like, this almost seems like a scam, like in a good way. I don't know.
Right. I know what you mean.
I don't know what he meant by that, except that, okay, let me keep doing it. He goes, like, why why do people try to time the market and buy and sell and buy and sell when they could just be buying dividend and growth funds and just letting that stuff? I go, you mean dollar cost average in? He goes, yeah. I go, well, that's the $100,000 question. I guess it seems too easy and it takes too long. But imagine if we did that. I mean, you take people's Social Security money and just put them in index funds or dividend funds, or
Yeah,
heaven forbid, let us decide. But I know that could be a slippery slope.
yeah, no doubt, and that's just the other side of it. It's like, all right, if you let individuals decide, how many people would be yanking that 6.2% to go buy Starbucks and sneakers?
Trip
I don't have anything.
vacations,
I
take
don't
your
have
kids
anything
to Chuck E.
against
Cheese.
Starbucks, but I mean, if you had a set up or a situation where you had to take your 6.2 or whatever, and it had to go into something, and you couldn't collect. Well, man, I got a lot more confidence in in the market than I have in our government handling it the right way. But we've built a house of cards, right? How do you let's say we wanted to change it. You and I are in charge. We're the leaders of the free world, and we're going
I'd
to
have a
change.
lot. I'd have a lot more followers on Twitter because there's be a lot of hate.
Well,
But go on.
if they didn't follow you, you could make their lives miserable anyway. So if we had to do it though, we couldn't. You can't just start where we are and start making the change that we're just talking about, because we've got these 66 million, I think it said, collecting already, and their money's got to come from somewhere, right?
Mm.
And so that's where my mom starts to yell at me, because I go, Mom, and my mom's over. My mom's old enough that she'd be collecting anyway, and not without revealing my mom's age, because she does listen, by the way, Paul, a lot to us. And now I'm gonna.
It was mine, so I'm worried about the feedback we're gonna get.
Yeah,
on
we're
this.
gonna oh yeah, gonna hear about this one big time. But they're speaking for people who have been promised this and expect it, and I can't blame them for that.
And they played by the rules.
And they played by the rules and did it the way they were supposed to do it. Correct. So I don't begrudge them, and I'm not looking for them to be the ones that fall on the sword for the rest of us, because that wouldn't come without its own problems as well. But I do like the topic, because I feel like it's such a, it's like we're really caught in a tough spot with some of this stuff. And not to mention, Paul, isn't the younger generations are having fewer kids, right? So you're gonna have fewer kids in the workforce, and now you're gonna have, less funding. So you're gonna, that 6.2, is that 9.2 in 20 years? Is it 11.2? I don't know.
What drives me nuts, it's the same with school. There's a lot of flack on education. There's a lot of flack on Social Security, all these systematic things, right?
Okay.
But the system for public education started at a time when I think it was a great system. Social
Right.
Security started at a time when it was a great system, something to have, a fallback. But those aren't the rules society wants to play by. Or you ask most young kids, they don't expect that or want that. They want to go out. Well, the ones I teach want to go out and make their own money and don't understand why they have to give some away to the government to save for someone else. So somehow there's got to be an exit plan, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And I think big government is bad at exit plans. And for me, as a guy, when I look at politics and some of those things, that's why I'm not a big government guy, because, you let big government do its thing. And I agree. I mean, I think the education system, when it was built in a good way, in the Social Security system. But, things change, and now this entity is so large, it doesn't turn it all, right? It's not flexible enough. And that puts us in a spot. And then, you've got all these factions and groups of people and people who paid into it for years, and or people who are teachers or people, whatever the case may be. And it's hard to turn that ship.
And again, I don't want to be hypocritical. As a teacher educator that technically could retire at any time, I have a pension, right?
Right.
And I played by those rules, and the trade-off was I gave some other income producing opportunities up for time. And I mean, so
yes,
we're all there, but I'm smart enough. COVID's when it really hit me a couple of years ago that I have a pension and that's great. But in theory, it could collapse. Where, like, do I run around yelling, "Where's my pension, New York State?" New York State's like, "Well, we've dissolved ourselves." Like, I don't know what to tell you. Well, I want my pension. So I'm setting myself up with other income streams and I'm not afraid to work. Right.
right.
And
Yep.
I've been building them all the time, and uh the system changes when it collapses, I feel. And so it's just not gonna until it collapses. And hopefully some people are smart enough to, if I was 20, 30, 40, I would be focusing on some other streams besides a job with a pension and Social Security. If I was 60, 70, I mean, you play by the rules, you'll probably have it your lifetime, and that's fine, right?
Right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so let's reverse engineer this a little. What should we call this episode? Because we just kind of started. I have a word. You tell me your word.
You're so much better at this stuff than I am. I got nothing coming to mind. What do you got? Help me out
I'll go
here.
First. I think we could call this episode trade-offs.
Okay. All right.
I mean, our Valentine's choice was a trade-off, but the trade-off is we don't celebrate special moments on one day.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right.
we're so bad. I mean, a lot of holidays and a lot of birthdays and things, like, I kind of just go buy what I want to buy, so I don't need a special day to get presents. Does that make sense? I'd rather have an experience or an adventure. So, but trade-offs, the Social Security, that there's a trade-off there, whether the system collapses or whether people should collect. What's next?
No, when you're talking trade-offs, Paul, it has me thinking about a podcast I was listening to the last couple days.
Wait. You listen to other shows besides ours?
Just one time.
It was right. Okay, I got you. Go ahead.
So what? Some of these podcasts or some of these people on TV or whatever, they get so much traction for taking these stances on Social Security, let's say, or pick a political topic or COVID or the vaccine or something. And my mind just doesn't work that way. I can't, like, I hear this topic, that they're on, universal health care was one of them. And this guy was just all for it. Here's all the benefits and boom, boom, boom. And all I want that person to do, it doesn't matter who it is, in any of these discussions, all I want them to do, though, is then go, but the trade-off would be, or some of the trade-offs would be, and there's going to be unforeseen trade-offs that we don't even know about yet. So let's remember, when we're making these giant, like, you and I want to tear Social Security down, or at least that's what our mothers are going to say. We said, you and I both know there would be some unbelievably unforeseen trade-off circumstances that nobody had any idea were coming when you do some of these things. And people take these polarizing points of view. And I mean, look, I can do that. You can do that. It doesn't really, you can educate yourself on that, but I don't think that takes intelligence. What to me takes intelligence is going, I really like this, but I also know that is a trade-off. Now, I think we are better off here for the majority, or but if I'm not willing to recognize that and discuss it and say I understand it, frankly, your opinion is worthless to me. It's very bothersome to me. But these are the people that blow up, because now I got a team, and I'm team universal health care, or I'm team not universal health care. I'm team Social Security, I'm team anti-Social Security, whatever it is. It's like, no, the intelligence is in the nuance. And that's the thing that just really bothers me.
Well, it gets tribal. It's the American way. It's like, I always go back to that sports analogy. I watched the Super Bowl the other night, and I have a funny story. Yeah, I have a funny story about that because we were in Florida. I watched it at a
Oh, right,
hotel,
yeah.
But at the end of the game, one team's super happy, the other fans are super sad. But for the same reasons a fan was hoping team A won, the same fans have the same reasons for team B. Like it's there's two sides to it. One team's not good and the other's bad. They're the same two entities just competing, and someone wins and someone loses. And that's sports. And we take that into every aspect of our life now. There's got to be a winner and loser in politics. There's got to be a winner or loser, on social media. I've got to be polarizing in a podcast or no one's going to listen to me because everybody else is a winner or loser. And like, what if you just explore a topic and know there's other parts to it that might make the thing grow better? All the fighting grows a stronger foundation. And that's what we do a lot, but that's why we're nobodies.
Yeah, it is what we do a lot, and like you said, that's it's unfortunate that taking that approach is a way to get viewers. But if your goal is to be better, be more intelligent, to be more knowledgeable, then if you're looking for to win or lose, or win or not lose, I should say, you're not helping yourself. And sports, though, look, sports, I can get it. It's binary, right? It's either 1 or 0. It's either I win or I lose. And to your point, look, the Eagles, who lost that game, of course, you give them one more possession in a minute and a half left on the clock, they might be the ones with the confetti talking about how no one gave them a chance and how everyone doubted them. The same nonsense you hear out of every team at the end of every year that makes me just roll my eyes. Go ahead.
Oh, but that's my point. Yeah, sports have to be that way.
Right.
And I think, unfortunately, like for a fan, to me, it's entertainment. For the athletes, it's business, and I get it. But it doesn't mean the rest of our lives like the rest of your life you grow by compromising and keeping an open mind and knowing there's weaknesses to everything you do. In sports, you do that by exploiting someone else's weaknesses and hopefully performing. That shouldn't be the rest of your life. That's what I meant by that.
No, right, and that's you nailed it. That's exactly what I was getting at. It's like in the rest of your life, there's not like I don't have to beat anyone. I never wake up any morning and go, I got to go beat. I don't mean physically because I did that with my. I have to go beat my competitor in the real estate industry or the franchise industry or the show industry or any of these industries I'm in. It doesn't even cross my mind, Paul, because I can win and so can they. And so it's not this 1 or 0 binary kind of thing. And thank God. But because of that, I have to understand trade-offs and these kinds of things. But it doesn't get headlines. It doesn't get listeners. It doesn't get followers. It doesn't get likes. It's me against you. I win or I lose. But the reality is it's not the case. Look, you could take one political party's agenda, whatever, pick one. Doesn't matter to me. Pick one. And let's take all their policies and do it. There's going to be some benefits. And there's going to be some problems. Okay, and where you stand on that, and the issue where we all fall in the middle here, and in the nuance in there. That's the fun part to me. The fun part to me isn't going burn down Social Security. That's the answer. That's the solution. As Thomas Sowell says, who's one of my heroes, there are no solutions. There's only trade-offs, and he's just so right, and I just love when I can get people in the mindset, and I know a lot of people in this mindset that I talk to regularly who go, I like this, but I can recognize it means that. And I've said it before with capitalism. Like, I think capitalism is the best form that we've come up with economically. But you look at me in the eye and say, hey, Matt, well, okay, time to be are you a hypocrite? Are there trade-offs? I'm going, heck yeah, there are. And there's some bad ones, and I can talk about them, and I should admit to them. But if you can't do that on any topic that you're that passionate about, I don't want to hear from you. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, to me, everything's a spectrum. You know, when I used to teach political systems, I'd
Hmm.
use the Heritage Foundation's something of economic freedom. It's if you
Okay.
look up,
Yeah.
and it would rank the freest countries in the world to the poorest countries of the world, and we'd go through them, and the most repressed countries of the world are the ones where you have to wear like an army uniform to go visit if you're from America. And the
Right.
freest countries of the world are where you might want to open a business or go visit or have a tourist. But even America, we had a grade of like 75 on a scale of 100. But
Yeah.
we're so big and we have so many micro economies within our economy. Short term, we can't screw it up even if we try with certain programs because capitalism dwarfs everything else, right? But you certainly can't be all absolute in one way or the other.
No.
Everything it's the yin and the yang. And whether it's now you're Thomas Sowell, I'm quoting Confucius and yin and yang, and but the theory is that it's all about trade-offs and choices and a spectrum and a blend. And political parties don't want that. Political parties pretend they're sports teams, and people that don't know any
Right.
better have to pick one side. And it could be so much better than rooting for a sports team because everybody could win, and it just doesn't happen right now.
A lot of people talk about having a third or more party in our country, and you got an opinion on that?
Yeah, it happens a lot, I feel, grassroots wise, but one of the two major parties becomes an amoeba and engulfs the issue, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
about because if you teach the political spectrum, you got the left and the right, but people forget you have the authoritarian and libertarian up and down. And not going into a big lesson, back in the days of like Jefferson and Hamilton, the society was based on having centralized power or decentralized power. And today, instead of up down, it goes left right, where it's
Mm,
about one side, both sides sabotage freedom, right? The left sabotages freedom for the individual, the right sabotages freedom for the business world. And then they both say the other side controls society, but one side's trying to control the individual and the other side's trying to control the business. And they've taken part of both of that. So instead of having an up down authoritarian uh,
libertarian.
libertarian philosophy, it's left right, left right. And I thought Donald Trump would have a good opportunity to blow the whole system up, but it settled right back into the same thing after he left, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, and my concern's always on that up down part that you're talking about, and I can't say I've ever really remember anybody putting it the way you just did. So I think that was awesome. I really do, because all you ever talk about is left, right, and that gets so tiresome. Number one, but like it's missing so much because, like you said, look, I want to be down in the freedom libertarian area, right? That authoritarian way up top there. That's not of interest to me personally. That's not to say there aren't some trade offs with that, though, right? And there aren't some, like, regulation and some of those kinds of things. But yeah, I
Yeah, and if,
don't I
if
don't hear anybody talk about that. So I'm glad you did.
and if you think about it, the extremes are so closely related. So you like if you had a completely libertarian society, it basically would turn into anarchy. And
Anarchy.
out of anarchy, people would want safety, so they'd start forming small tribes and groups of people, and they'd have the strongest person be in power that would make absolute rules over everybody else, which would become, like tyranny. So
Yeah.
it's like a jump, and then it would start all over again. Uh, I just it's just frustrating that you could take any issue, and I don't know what party you want to pick, but it's too bad we didn't have three. I want to have a game show where every state produces their best candidate for president, and then we just have a show every week and we vote people off till there's one left.
I think that would be great.
Of course, why does New York get more votes than Vermont? And why does
Yeah,
so
sure. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe it's
Right.
like Survivor, and they form. Oh wait, they already do that. They form.
Yeah. 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 They're way ahead of that one. That's
So,
funny. That would be hilarious. That would be
but
hilarious.
despite it all, it's crazy how much. Like I travel a ton in America, you travel a ton, period. But don't you find when you meet people on a micro level, like you don't talk about any macro issue. You talk, I meet so many people that are just like me, but boy, I bet you if I brought up certain hot button issues, we wouldn't be friends. Or if they didn't like something I posted on social media, they'd tear my head off.
That would be the more, I think the realistic part is if you posted it on social media, they'd tear your head off. If you met them and you're sitting across the table from them or in a living room or a restaurant or whatever, and you had, you had some of these conversations, and you've had them, I've had them, and maybe you don't disagree, or I'm sorry, maybe you don't agree, but the way it's handled is so different. It's like, yeah, or yeah, I get your point of view, but you can do that on social media, and my God, you think they'd want to, tar and feather you and burn your house down, and probably would say so, but you don't see it when you're on the real world, and that's why I think social media is just it's like everything, it's got its trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
But it can be so toxic.
And so, as we wrap this up, that's why we decided to do the podcast our way and have lots of people on telling us their anecdotes for success and using the pillars, truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective, or adventure versus meaning, because we just tried talking about politics a little bit. And if you think about it, we didn't really get into any specifics. We just talked about how there's ups and downs and trade-offs to all the issues. So we could pick any issue on the planet and I think we would end up agreeing that this needs to change and this needs to stay the same or this needs to strengthen. But we think we can have more impact instead of being polarizing, of inviting people on to share their stories. And then if you have an open mind, you might take bits and pieces of what everybody does and then live your best life.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I don't think you help anyone preaching this side, whatever it happens to be, without recognizing the trade-offs. And doesn't mean you might not believe in what your side is on the issue. Because I certainly have my beliefs on my sides,
right.
but I'm not going to pretend there aren't downsides to the things I believe in. Just like my personal life, there are things that I believe wholeheartedly in. They come with downsides, and there's no way around it. And having disingenuous conversations or spouting off so that you can sound a certain way or get a certain amount of following because of it, it's not what we set out to do, and not what we're gonna do. And like you said, find it much more helpful to have interesting conversations with other people about their success, so we can learn from it, our listeners can learn from it, our guests can learn from it, and people can be better. And that's just what we're going for.
Absolutely. I talk a lot here. I can be pretty dominant in the classroom, trying to facilitate or lead things. But when I go to conferences or when I'm out with friends, I do a lot of just listening, because there's a reason I joke with students that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, that you should use them proportionally. And I find I have better evenings when I'm with people and building relationships when I use that 2 ear, 1 mouth proportionally. If I'm doing all the talking, what fun was that by the end of the night? Except I can beat my chest and say, well, they probably weren't even listening to me at that point. I think they were. So yeah, I think a good name for this episode is Trade-Offs.
Definitely, we spoke about it a lot in this one, and I hope people think in those terms and know that just the answer isn't always available. It's going to come with it. It's going to come with a trade-off, and that's normal. So embrace it, understand it, and therefore you can make better decisions.
Yeah, and quick disclaimer, moms, we love you. We understand. We understand. I'm looking forward to that in 12 years too. Social Security. We played the game. We played the game. You should get the spoils of the game. But
agreed.
If I was young, I'd be looking for something else.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Hey, next week we might go solo again. We've got a couple guests lined up, but I'll be out of town and you'll be out of town.
Correct.
So next week the goal is to do our first out of town podcast.
We got to do it, Paul. We got to. I mean,
I can't wait. So they're not going to see your blinds and they're not going to see my pictures in the back. You know what? I might take a picture. I might have that be my background anyways.
I don't even know how to do that. So
Yeah, I know you don't, so I won't do it. All right, Matt, take care.
all right, see ya.
Bye.